Okay, so thank you again, everyone, for coming. Appreciate taking the time to come down and have some pizzas with us. So, welcome to Data Date Night. This was themed this way because it was supposed to be after Valentine's Day, and we have some love theme topics for today, so it should be fun. Okay, so again, just a reminder, we have a WhatsApp group, so you can scan and then get into the channel. Usually we do like announcements there, but I'm thinking like it might be too many groups already, so we might just consolidate to one. They make it easier for everyone. Because like most of the people only use one channel, like the rest of the channel not using. Right? Cool. All good? Okay. So hi again, we're the co-leads. So I have Phyllis here with me, Aloysius, and we have a new addition, WenBin, who is our student ambassador as well. So he's the only one with the ambassador t-shirt because we made him wear that so that he stand out. Yeah, so for us, we'll be running the show from today onwards lah. Can lah. We can make him do that lah. Okay, so this is the agenda for today. We'll do a recap about the IMVIS top 10 and some information about Tableau conference by Aloysius. And then WenBin will do a section on his New Year, New Adventures. Suhendra will be talking about Agentforce and Tableau next, which is very exciting. And then Phyllis will be talking about Labubu. And then I'll do kind of like a live demo for dashboard hacks, right? Cool. So this is the dates for this year for our talk. So we are at Feb. Tableau conference will be in April. So the next meetup will be somewhere in May, where we do kind of like a post-conference wrap-up, because there'll be announcement being made or like new features and stuff like that. So we'll bring that back from TC to share with you guys. So Phyllis and myself will be heading up to TC, but if anyone wants to head up together with us, more than welcome. We can bring you around to party and all, and also learn more about Tableau. And then we have some other industry deadlines like Data to Speak Outlier Conference, which is a data visualization specific webinar. And then you have IMVIS all the way in October. So after May, the next one will be August, and then November wrap up. Right. Cool. So I'll pass it over to Aloysius to do the recap.
Yep, so I'll do a recap on like some of the IMVIS that were in top 10. I think one interesting thing is I wanted to look at what actually made like these visas actually become top 10. And then also previously, I think when we had the previous session at I think Pongo itself, I also listed like some visas that I actually really like. But unfortunately, out of the I think 7 or 8 visas that I like, only one of them became like top 10. After that, I also realized the issue why I chose the top 10s on my own based on like I guess more relatability, because there were a lot of people who were visualizing like, for example, like their gaming habits like Louis, but some people also visualizing like movie nights with their family and everything. And then one thing that I realized with like the top 10 that I've chosen was that they were all mainly kind of like data journalism towards that angle instead of more like being relatable to like I guess people in general. So I think what first things first would be a cohesive and impactful design. I think if no one has seen the I guess Rising from the Tank this yet, I do recommend everyone to take a look, because the visualization actually uses a lot of other complex visas like complex charts and I guess Sankey's that actually go through the entire visualization. And then everything also felt very cohesive and impactful design. And honestly, most of these like in fact, all of these top 10 designs honestly all look like infographics and like very professionally done. So consistent colors, fonts, and layouts that also resonate with the team. For example, right from Rising from the Shark Tank, it was mainly like blue because of Shark Tank itself. Yeah. And then they also prioritize like readability, because a lot of I think it's quite difficult to also look at I guess the long form visas, because when people do scroll a lot, it's very hard to also keep the fonts consistent and make it also readable when you're actually looking at like different types of screens. So that's one. Another one would be strong storytelling and clear narrative. So how to get into the Boston Marathon was the one that I really liked the most when I picked my own top 10 in the previous session. The central narrative for like the Boston Marathon one is very strong, just like the Margaret View one. because that was mainly about like gym with face like stuff. And then for how to get into Boston Marathon is very clear cut. The title literally says what the visualization is going to be, and it gives you like different options to like actually sign up for Boston Marathon, be it like for charity or like you have to run very fast, and then slowly deep dives into this kind of analytical portions for how to actually get into Boston Marathon. And then there's also obviously analytical depth. Honestly, all of them all have a lot of analytical depth to it. For example, like the from screen to scene is very interesting because I guess it was a very interesting question that the author actually went through. Like based on the TV series, they actually bring about a tourism boom to Scotland itself. And then the person also managed to go through like how did the ratings actually pan out. And then when the drama series was being aired as well, was tourism actually booming in like the places that were being referenced in the drama as well. So there was a lot of case study examination as well, a lot of comprehensive data collection and trend analysis as well, because they were also taking from like tourism board and also like drama ratings and anything that could actually support their narrative. And then lastly is complex chart types. So all of them all have at least one complex chart type. For example, like network charts or like even chord diagrams. And then the chord diagram one for the Mira Carey one is like quite nice. And everything also hands in very well together, and most of the workbooks are also loading very fast when I was trying to refresh them within Tableau itself. So yeah, if I'm not wrong, that's about it. Yes, yeah. So once again, just to do a quick summarization, like try to have a comprehensive, I guess, narrative, and also try to improve on like visibility and readability, because I think that helps with you bring your message to, I guess, the wider audience as well, be it like at work itself or for IronVis or like any side projects they're actually looking at. Yep. Thank you. I'll pass the time on to Luis to speak a little bit more on Tableau conference, because I've never been and it's been a while.
So before we start, right, I'll just let the video load because they have actually Salesforce did a video on it, so you all can take a look.
Tableau conference is coming. Join us for the must-attend data and analytics event of the year.
Hello!
3 immersive days of learning and connection. More than 300 expert and community-led sessions. Over 100 hands-on trainings. Meet one-on-one with a Tableau doctor. Connect with thousands of data leaders and enthusiasts. Build, customize, and deploy AI agents enriched with Tableau skills. Experience the ultimate data viz competition and celebrate with the Data Fam at Data Night Out. Get ready to lead the next frontier of data, analytics, and AI innovation with Agentforce and Tableau. Join us in San Diego or live on Salesforce Plus. Register now.
Okay, so the video is very marketing lah, but basically Tableau conference is quite fun because you get to meet a lot of folks in the community as well as learn. They have a lot of tracks, a lot of sessions for you to do hands-on training. There's workshops there and involved as well. So if you need help writing up like a proposal to your boss to send you the Tableau conference, the Tableau conference website also has a button for you to click and it'll generate email template or a document for you to send it to your boss. Or if you need some anecdotes from like me or Phyllis, feel free to reach out to us. We can help you to craft that perfect message for your boss. Yeah, but I would recommend for anyone who's using Tableau very actively in the current organization to go for at least one of this Tableau conference, because you do learn a lot and you get to meet a lot of folks that you can tap on their knowledge as time passes, right? Because I also met a lot of folks there that you probably won't have any opportunities to meet if you are, just in Singapore, right? So generally for Tableau conference, there's 3 days worth of content. There's like keynotes where they announce upcoming features, demo, new features, or give us a teaser of what's coming. I think this year probably would be a lot on Agentforce and Tableau Next, which Suhendra will go through later. And then Wednesday would be the IronVis, which is really exciting. So you've seen some of the IronVis submissions that Aloysius went through. The Shark Tank one is one of the top 3. So he'll be he'll be fighting on stage with two other ones that actually made it. Some of the sessions would be available on Salesforce Plus, which is one of the online platforms. So you can go to Salesforce Plus and view it. I think it will be pre-recorded as well. Oh, sorry, post-recorded. And you can view it because the timing is a bit off because it's US timing. But they do reruns of at least the keynotes and the important ones. So if you're interested, you can also register for an account at Salesforce Plus. Yeah, that's about it. If you guys want to know more about TC, feel free to reach out to us. All right. Cool. So I'll pass it over to WenBin. Oh, Suhendra, do you have anything to add about TC? Okay. Yeah, you should pay me. Okay.
All right, thanks, Louis. So hi, everyone. My name is WenBin. It's my first time giving a talk as well. So before I start, maybe just to explain, just to elaborate a bit more. So I'm a Tableau academic ambassador. So what that is actually, since the early days of Tableau, it's very community-based, right? So that's why you have Tableau forums, a lot of like groups that help one another. So in Tableau, there are these ambassador groups. So myself, I'm an academic ambassador. There are a few other academic ambassadors as well. Minty, which is my previous supervisor, she's an academic ambassador, as well as Louis. So if you're interested to get more involved in the Tableau community, you can also consider applying as an ambassador. Some of the things is just really hosting workshops, hosting talks, and really, yeah, just spreading the word of Tableau. Yeah, so as for myself, I recently graduated from NTU. I am a Tableau newbie. I think it's about 2 years since I've been using Tableau, so I think relatively new still. These are some of that's like my Tableau public profile. I've been experimenting with some visualizations, and I first learned Tableau during my internship with Johnson & Johnson. So why I want to speak today is because wherever stage we are at for Tableau, I think there's always a lot of things that we can learn, a lot of new concepts that we can grasp. And what I hope for is that in today's sharing, you will learn a bit more about some of the things that I wished I knew when I first started out. So I think first is learning to build, right? So actually there's a very comprehensive chart catalog by this Tableau visionary called Kevin Phillage. So you can access it in Tableau. We actually have a PDF for you guys to see and scan at the end of the session. So you guys have access to all these resources on Tableau Public. So in this visualization, he actually hyperlinked 100 different kinds of charts and visualizations that other creators have made. And I feel that if in the new year, you want to try something new, this is a very good place to start to seek inspiration. But inspiration aside, we now have to think about design, right? So just now, Aloysius talked about how the top 3 visualizations were all very readable, right? And they look very good aesthetically. So the question is, why is it that they look good aesthetically? And that is one of the things that I want to talk about, which is about visual hierarchy, right? So visual hierarchy is a concept. It's how we as designers organize information to make it more readable, more human for the viewer, right? So there are a lot of visual hierarchy concepts out there. But one of the first ones I want to talk about is layouts, right? So if you notice later on when we look at some of the visualizations, you'll notice that how let's say, for instance, rising from the tank, the layout is maybe it's following an F pattern, right? So what are layouts is that UX research communities, UX research companies, when they research what web users, how they view articles, they found the conclusion that generally we as viewers will use either an F pattern or a Z pattern. So just as a demonstration, right? So this is a viz of the day. So Sherlock Holmes, right? And yeah, so it's a very interesting viz, very stunning with its visualization. So if we think about the science behind it, so how actually do we read this chart? The answer could be something like a Z pattern, right? So you see the title, then the creator, the author, they kind of strategically place, the description to the site in a Z format. So that's an example of how we as users or as readers take in that visual information, and how you as a designer can take that into consideration when creating your visualizations. The next one I want to go through is about the 60-30-10 rule. So 60-30-10 it's not just in UX design. It's actually in like the furniture, architecture. You take a look at this room also, right? The fact that the natural color, 60% of the base color should be about brown, a neutral color. Then there are some accents, and yeah, that's all part of the 60-30-10 rule. You don't have to follow it like step by step. Oh, it must be 60%, it must be 30%. No, you don't have to do that, but it's a very good guide for building your dashboards, for building your visualizations, so that people can focus on the information that you want them to see. Right, so this is just another example of the 60-30-10 in action. Yeah, so I think I just wanted to, oh, sorry. Don't mind me, yeah, so the idea I had is that, it doesn't come naturally. There will always be a lot of iterations when it comes to designing. So I'll just give a recent project that I had as an example. So this is one of the things that I've been working on for a while. It's a team performance dashboard, right? So this is the final version on Tableau Public, but there's a lot of effort that goes behind the scenes. So these were like the first draft, the second draft, and this was on Figma, right? So I designed the background, the layouts on Figma, and this was the number of views and the number of things I had to iterate and try out. So the moral of the story here is that, in your dashboard creation journey, it's always going to be a lot of experimentation, trying to see which one is actually gives the best message, is organized in the best manner, and actually asking people, let's say your friends, your mentors for feedback about how you design can actually help with this entire process. Yeah, so that's just a quick sharing. Again, the resources will be in the PDF that you guys can download and access later on. And yeah, that just concludes my sharing. I'll pass over the time to Suhendra for Agentforce.
All right. Okay, I need to use my PC for this. So, yep. All right. I hope everybody are still good. So Louis mentioned, like, if you didn't manage to go for Tableau conference, this is like the 10 version less than Tableau conference, right? So I'm presenting something that perhaps they'll cover, but it's not as good as what the Tableau conference is. But yeah, let's get started. So before we start, some of the things that I'm going to share with all of you today is a future-looking kind of product roadmap, right? And as all of us know, Salesforce is a public listed company. So whatever that you make a decision, please make sure based on whatever available today. And I just want to say thank you for all of you coming down from your work, hang out with us on this evening. This is Friday night. I think you can pick like going with your girlfriend or family, but you decided to spend the time with us. So thank you so much for your time today. And hopefully, whatever that we're going to share with you today is useful and help you to understand about like how Tableau is going to be evolving in the future and how it's actually going to help you in your organization and even for yourself, right? Now, I just want to start with these numbers, right? And this is based on the Salesforce data and analytics report. And what it's saying is that 96% of business leaders say that data and analytics improve decision making. Right? Imagine 96%. So that's 4% people disagree with it. It's like you ask people having a kid whether it's hard or not, right? A lot of them will say it's very hard. Some people will say no, it's not hard because they don't have kids. But yeah, this is the comparison of that statement, right? And why is that so? Although a lot of leaders mention that data is important to make decisions, but a lot of companies right now in this modern world, right, they have a lot of data, but they do not have the insight that they need to run their business. And a lot of those is because their data is too many and it's actually scattered throughout the organization, right? And then it's also very difficult for you to find those insights. And when you actually find those insights, a lot of the user that you're actually serving those insights, they just don't trust the insight, right? I do not know how many of you, like if you build any reports or dashboard for your user, they'll ask one single question that's going to boil your blood, right? They'll ask you, can you give me an Excel of this version, right? Because this is the human nature, right? Like all of us typically will feel like, oh, I can do a better job. I trust the data if I've seen what is actually happening underneath. Right? I need to understand how this data came about, right? And that's where the problem of a single source of truth. Everybody have their own single source of truth, right? They don't trust the data. And for those people that have the function in the company as analysts, right? Every single day you're going to have a phone call, email from your user asking, I need this filter, I need to change this, I want to change that. And you're just doing a lot of this work that is supposedly something they can do themselves, but because they are reliant on you, they cannot do it themselves, and you're stuck in this like loop, kind of like trying to improve it for your user, right? So what is really needed for your business, right? They need insight that actually come into the flow of their work. Imagine you are using a system where the insight actually showing in your apps or in your system. For example, use Microsoft Teams or even like other CRM. Those insights coming out to you instead of you need to go to the dashboard to find those insights, right? You also need a conversational analytics, right? All of us have been using ChatGPT for a while, so I think a lot of the user expectation that we are serving, they expect a user interface that's something like that, right? You want to, if I have a question about something, I should be able to ask that question, and the magical AI should be able to give me the answer that I need. But the hard truth is that the AI is good on answering more of like a general question that perhaps is public information, right? Because that's how it's being trained. But you are working in an organization where the data is actually belong to your organization. It will not available in public. It's not trained for the LLM, right? And that's where there's a disconnect of those answers that are given by the AI for your question that you ask about your data. Before I move on, I haven't introduced myself. So my name is Suhendra. So I lead the solution team for Tableau on daytime. On nighttime, I'm a parent of 2 children, 9 and 1. I'm a gamer by heart, so I'm very relatable to Luis on whatever visas that he built for gaming. And yeah, I like to learn about a lot of the technology, so including AIs and all the advancement about technology. So yeah, be that curious minded, right? Been with Tableau for 6 years, 5 years with Salesforce, so in total like around 10 to 11 years. Enjoying the ride so far, yeah. Now, back to the story again, right? We are in this wave where, the first wave is actually prediction. You have your data, you want to predict the future about like whatever KPIs that you want to predict, right? Like the sales profitability or even like certain numbers that you want to predict. Then you start into wave 2 about Copilot, where ChatGPT coming in and it being introduced. And we are now on the stage of third wave, which is the agentic wave. Right now that you have this AI and LLM, you want to create something that can be automated to help you to perform certain complex tasks and still involve you as a part of the decision-making process when it comes to the output of the agentic, right? And of course, we have the future wave like robotic, artificial general intelligence, and so on. And like I mentioned early on, there is a gap in terms of like what is the agent that we have today, right, in this modern world. A lot of the agent doesn't understand your business context because they don't have access to your data, right? They don't have access to your business data. And they may not understand your terms or lingo that you use in your company, right? Within your company, within your industry, you have certain keywords that perhaps it's commonly used within the organization, but because this is unique to your company, the agent would not be understand whatever question that you ask, right? And finally, the agent couldn't actually visualize those insights to you based on the question that you ask. And within Salesforce, we believe that we can actually solve this problem, right? With Tableau being built on top of Salesforce platform and the power of Data Cloud as the underlying data semantic, we can actually solve this complex problem for our customer. And that's where we introduce what we call as a Tableau Next, right? It's a agentic analytics layer where it's allow you to actually drive actionable insight everywhere that you work, right? We provide that single source of truth, that conversation analytics for our users. And if you actually open the cover and see under the hood, right? Tableau Next is built on multiple layers. Right, you have the data layer, which is where you ingest a lot of data from on-prem or the cloud, and you create that semantic layer to help agent to query data from your semantic layer and help you find the insight of your data. And finally, you have the visualization and take action on top of that. So if we double click on this Tableau Next, right, what actually the capability that Tableau Next can actually do for you and your organization. And we'll take step by step. So the first one is the semantic layer, right? This is the fundamental things that we are going to need to set up within Tableau Next, which allow you to create the data model, right, that fuel that knowledge for your agent to answer your question. Now imagine, right, let's say I work in a sales organization and I want to ask about like how many active leads that I have in my pipeline, for example, right? Because the agent doesn't actually have the context without Tableau, it will basically ask a clarification question, and I need to do this back and forth chatting with the agent to help the agent to understand my intent and my context. And with Tableau, because the agent actually have access to our underlying data sources and also the semantic, it will be able to pick up those questions and the intent accurately and provide you with the right answer all the times, right? So what is Tableau semantic? So imagine like you have many different data that you actually use in your organization, right? Tableau semantic is the catalog or the libraries that actually help you bring all this together, right? Segmentize every single data into a different business unit that your business understand and use. And it will also fuel the knowledge for this agentic to be able to pick the right data sources and answer whatever question that we ask on top of the agent conversation. We'll see more about this on the quick demonstration I will do later. And then we move on into the ability for Tableau Next to empower every users, right? In the pre-built skill. So we equip the agent with 3 skills. We call it a data pro, which is geared toward our analytics audience to help you to prepare data and visualize data. And then you have these 2 skills that is geared toward your business users. That's what we call as a concierge and inspector, right? And what does it even mean, right? Let me go through that. So the first skill, data pro. So I'm not sure like how many of you dealing with like data modeling, building a different object together, building relationship and all of this, right? So if you are in that particular function or that particular role, you will appreciate the ability of the agent to actually provide you with the insight about relationship that potentially you can do between a different object that you actually ingest, right? So that's where the data pro actually provide the recommendation. At the same time, it's also doing what we call as a auto calculation field. So it will also help you to create calculation based on the instruction that you give to the agent that you want them to do. The next one, the concierge, right? The gist of this is that when you have a report or dashboard that you have published for your users, right? Instead of them pick a phone or email you about a follow-up question that perhaps the report or dashboard doesn't actually answer, they can rely into this concierge agent to actually help them answer those questions, right? Again, we'll see that in the demonstration shortly where you can rely on this agent to ask a very complicated question, and the agent will be able to going through a different data sources that you have and find those insights for you. Finally, the inspector, right? Contrast with the previous one, which is a concierge. Inspector meant to actually bring insight to you. Right? Typical workflow is that everybody every morning need to sit in their laptop, open the dashboard, look for the insight, right? Or look at the KPIs that they're supposed to see. Inspector, on the other hand, it will actually bring the insight for you based on the metric, the proactive insight, or even like the alerts that you have set up, right? Using Tableau Next. And the last pillar is all about, fueling all these different capabilities towards like product like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud within Salesforce. So yeah, I'll go through this quickly. Some of the use cases, for example, like prioritize opportunities, identify white space, right, for the sales use cases. And then you have the service agent and also the marketing agent, right? Yes, there's a lot of slides. So before all of you fall asleep, let's go into the demo. All right. So this is a normal CRM that Salesforce have, right? And it can be any application that you have in your organization, right? Imagine in this persona, I'm actually like maybe like a sales manager in my company. It's a new quarter of the year. I need to start working out my pipeline with my team, right? I see my records. There are so many of the opportunity that I need to go through one by one, all right? Would it be cool if we are able to actually ask a question to our agent and ask them to do the job for us, right? So what I can do, I can actually open, oh, it's okay, I can do it. Yeah, no problem. It's not building with, so it's fine. So I can ask a question. Basically, what is our weight pipeline and a win rate by region and industry for Q4 2024, right? Essentially, what I'm doing here is that I'm asking the agent force to actually go through the list of data that I have in my data sources and pull out the necessary records, right? Query those necessary records and go through one by one to help me understand what is, to answer my question that I'm asking today, right? So, okay, let me try to zoom in if I can. Yep, okay. Now it gives me a list of region and industry, right? Breaking down by the weighted pipeline. While it is useful, what I found is even more useful is the summarization that is actually done for me, right? It kind of helped me summarize the key information that I need to know to answer that particular question I'm asking. So it gave me, like, for example, the West, hold the highest pipeline in technology. So probably I need to start working on those particular areas because there's a low hanging fruit for me. And there is some gaps and even like a next step, right? Of course, we are not going to stop here. I'm going to ask the next question. I need to copy my question first from somewhere else. So my next question is essentially list the top 3 accounts, right, by open pipeline in technology in West region. Now, of course, for all of you that are Tableau savvy, right, obviously you can answer this question within 2 or 3 seconds, right? But imagine this is to serve your majority of your stakeholder in the organization that perhaps they are not familiar with Tableau, or even BI tools in general, right? They only have a business question and they want to have an answer of that question. So that's where the agent force can actually provide value for that. So it kind of gives me the top 3 accounts, right? Based on my question. And this is the top performance of the accounts. And as a next step, I want to start, reaching out to all these 3 accounts, right? So because I need to build my pipeline. So I'm going to ask the Tableau Next to actually create a campaign. So you can imagine that in the past, you need to create your reporting or dashboarding within the Tableau ecosystem. And then when you want to take action, you need to actually go out from the flow of your work. Let's say you open your other marketing system, or you need to go to other system to actually create those action based on the finding that you have, right? But within Tableau Next, you can actually do that in the flow of the work, in the flow of thought that you have. So in this particular example, Tableau Next create the campaign for you. And because the Tableau Next have the understanding of the underlying data that you have, at the same time, it also have understanding about the business context. It will be able to merge this together to come up with a campaign straight away for you. Right? You need to manually create for that. Now, my last question, while this campaign is good, right, I would love to be able to actually have a vis to further, let me try to zoom in. Okay, to further actually analyze this further. Right, so I simply ask the Tableau Next to help me create a vis right out of this data. Now, once I have the vis, it will give me the link, which bring me to a new page, and you'll see some familiar component. Right, this is the brand new Tableau Next UX experience. So you're going to still have the capability of drag and drop your fields that we love, right? And you can definitely do your slice and dice of information based on the question that you want, right? So that's cool. Now let's switch gear, right? Let's say I'm the analyst. I'm the one that building stuff for my boss, right? I want to, so my boss reach out to me and tell me like, hey, Suhendra, I just found this insight by typing some question using Agentforce and come up with this information. Can you help me to incorporate into our existing analysis or our existing dashboard? So I can go here, and this is like the interface that we have to kind of like build our dashboard. And I can straight away add the visualization that I just created. All right. And that's how easy it is to kind of like transition from the insight that you find by doing conversation analytics and bring it to the dashboard like this. And what's cool about this is that we can also incorporate Tableau Pulse, right? The metric that we used to have to analyze, to measure the KPI of our business, right? So I can actually select my data source. Let's say I want to track the number of opportunities. So I can do that. Right, and I can keep adding some of these metrics, which is part of the Tableau Pulse capability right within Tableau Next. All right, so I hope that short demonstration helped to illustrate, the vision, the roadmap in terms of like where Tableau is going. And yeah, hopefully everyone have something to take away from this sharing. And over to you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Luis. Okay, I'll be sharing how to build your Labubu, and this is one of my latest Tableau dashboards that I've just published on my Tableau public. Okay, and because this is the month of love, I've actually created this as like a Valentine's Day special edition. So my dashboard, this Labubu dashboard, expect to see a lot of like pink and cutesy stuff. Okay, but before I actually share the dashboard, I just want to touch a bit on the inspiration behind it. Okay, so this dashboard that you see on the left-hand side is actually Luis's Iron Vase submission. So I was actually quite mind blown, about the animation part, you can see that as you click on the different cartridges, the charts actually animate. Then that's when I asked him, oh, how do you actually do that? Then he said he got inspired by Ant Pulley. So yeah, it's a chain of inspiration. Yeah, so as you can see from Ant Pulley's dashboard on the right, you see this ant from a small ant moving to a big ant when it's under the magnifying glass. So I got an inspiration for that to build kind of like a carousel, you know, where the items were moved, and I just show. Yeah, so I got the idea to actually build this. That, you know, it looks like a pop mart blind box thingy where all these accessories, they are actually small, but when it goes on top of the Labubu, it expands in size. So very similar to the magnifying glass with the N behind it. Okay, and yeah, so I'll be just going through how I actually built this. So the data is actually very simple. You notice that I have two things, two carousels. So one is the background, which is like the wings that you put behind Labubu, and the accessory. So accessory can be like the balloon that Labubu is holding, the crown on the head, so on and so forth. So each row will be one item. And actually, you'll notice that the XY coordinates don't really, it's not so important. I'll explain why later, but as of now, it's just like a running number, and my Y, you can see that it's just a constant because it's all the same height. Okay, so there are a lot of layers needed in order to build this animation. So I'll just go through the concepts. So there's obviously you need to create a layer that consists of the small accessory or the wings that you put behind Labubu, and this will always be placed behind the box. And then you also need transparent layers. Okay, and that's because okay, so if you actually refer to Ant Pulley's website, his blog, he also had to do this transparent layer on top, and the reason for that is because when you go behind the magnifying glass, it's no longer clickable, and he wants it to still be clickable. But for my case, there's also another reason on top, is because you'll notice that let's say balloon is on Labubu's left hand and then a lollipop on Labubu's right hand. So there is a little bit of like, it is not exactly centered. So that's why I had to do an additional like transparent layer on top so that you can make it clickable. Okay, then so I mentioned I have two carousels, right? One is the background, the wings, and this goes behind Labubu. And the accessory goes in front of Labubu. Okay, there is some manual computation involved. Okay, the raw data is very simple, but the hard part about this is you need to do a lot of try and error in order to make sure that, okay, this is the exact position that you want your accessory or your wings to be at. Okay, so you first need to create this parameter, which I've named accessory parameter. So I have 6 accessories. So that's why you can see that I have like 6 different, yeah, you can see I have like 6 different like rows here. And then you need to create a calculated field, which I've named as updated_x. So what this means, right, is that for each value that under your accessory parameter, you want to kind of like shift the x, that you want to shift the position, the x-axis of, you want to shift the position of the x coordinate of your accessory. Yeah, so I think it's easier to kind of like see it this way. So obviously for the actual dashboard, I've hidden the x-axis. So when my ID is 1, and that is the balloon value, I want this balloon to be behind the box. So it's actually hidden behind the box. Then for all the other values like ID 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they are actually on the right-hand side of the box. And then yeah, when this is for when accessory parameter is 1. But when accessory parameter equals to 2, you want the tiara to be behind the box, and then balloon will be the left-hand side, and then your crown, lollipop, ribbon, and sunglasses will be all the right-hand side. So you can see there's this like shifting of the X value. So this is a demo. Yeah, you can see that when you toggle between the different accessory parameter, these values will like change. Yeah, so just now I mentioned why we needed the transparent layer on top. You see that as my mouse hovers over the crown, I'm actually not clicking on the crown. It will actually click on the balloon instead because it's not centered. So if I just create like an additional layer, I duplicate it and put on top, you can see that all these square boxes, they are not like nicely covering the balloon. Okay, you can see the lollipop as well as the balloon. These are especially so because it is not centered. So yeah, no surprises here. For the transparent layer, it is also another round of trial and error and manual updating of the X values. So you need to do a bit of adjustment. And actually, I'm not covering in this session, but I also had to do this updated Y. Because you can see like, you know, balloons a little bit higher, like ribbon a bit higher. So it just depends how much you want to adjust the X and Y values. Okay, so as you can see in the left hand side, after all this manual adjustment, the layer is sitting nicely on top. And yeah, that's what you want. Okay, then you notice that as it goes over the box, the accessory is actually expanded, is bigger in size. And how this is actually done is you first create this big layer. So this is another worksheet. And I created this integer, which I've called size. And you can see that I just place it under the size peel over here. And the reason why I do that is because I want to be able to scale and make the accessories as big as I can. Okay, but of course, I don't want to show all 6 big accessories, right? You only notice that only one. I only just want to show one of it. So the idea behind this is we are actually just going to capture the x-axis range that only has that particular big accessory that you want. Okay, so to do that, I actually created 2 parameter values here. So one I've called px min and one is px max. So I've placed so this is a value of 2.8 and 3.2, which will be like the x-axis range. So if I actually do that, you notice that, oh, this just nicely captures just the halo. The other 5 accessories are out of this x-axis range. But because you don't want to only just have the halo, right? You want it to always switch to all the different big accessories. So yeah, you guessed it. You also need to create another calculated field to dynamically actually update this x-axis range. So for the halo, it is a range of 2.8 and 3.2. Then if it's the balloon, you can, which is 1. With the balloon, the range will be 0.8 to 1.2. Yeah, then I think that's pretty much for all the painful calculations that you need to do for this. The rest are dashboard actions. Okay, so you already got your transparent layer. You have all your calculated fields done. What you need to do is set the parameter action such that when you click on the transparent layer, this will update the min and the max, values for your x-axis range. Okay, so yeah, so for those who are curious, right, I actually did draw Labubu on Procreate, which is an app that is mostly used for digital art. And then I actually uploaded this on Canva. And Canva has a lot of all these very nice vector images that you can just scope and use. So I actually created many different Labubus, and then I just make sure that, okay, I want balloon to be on Labubu's right hand, so I'll just make sure it is in that particular frame. Then I'll just like remove Labubu and export that image. But you need to make sure that the image has a transparent background. Then I do the same for the other accessories. Okay, one last thing to note is that when you actually publish this to Tableau Public, for some reason there is this like weird home button that appears. I don't know, maybe Suhendra arrow. Okay. But anyway, and Puli also mentioned this in his blog. So one by left, one solution that he actually suggested was, to actually put like a cover, like an image. You want to hide that to, I don't know whether you can see, it's a bit blur. Yeah, you can see there's this like home button that appears when you publish to Tableau Public. So yeah, all I did was just add one additional image to hide that. Yeah, so this is the final dashboard. Okay, it was a very fun exercise to do. Okay, for those who are curious, whether this has any application to work, I would say absolutely no. Like it's really just for fun. Yeah. Okay, I think that's all for my sharing. Okay, thanks. Also just want the disclaimer that I actually don't own a Labubu, and don't sue me for any copyright. It's just for funs. Oh yeah, I don't know whether Louis did share about the good news. No. Yeah, so for those who are not aware, Louis was recently named Tableau Visionary, which is don't know how many people? 49 people. Okay, maybe Louis can elaborate more.
Thank you, Phyllis. So visionaries are kind of, I would say, sort of like elite class. So I'm very honored to be able to make it. And I think I'm the only one in Singapore to have made it. So most of the folks are from US and Europe. I think APAC representation, probably only like 3 or 4 people who are named as visionaries. But there's a lot of hard work. I mean, with great power comes great responsibility, right? Like Spider-Man says. So part of our journey as visionaries is also help to grow the community, help to mentor and guide the next cohort of superstars, right? So I have a busy year ahead of me. So one more thing to add for Phyllis Viz, right, which is very well done, is why we have so many weird calculation and parameter switch is because we want to take advantage of the animation in Tableau. So the only way to force animation like this is that you force Tableau to make a calculation. So if you are just switching values from one column to another, Tableau doesn't register that as a change in value, right? So you need to use the calculated fields to say, set this to this, set this to this when you do a different action. Then Tableau registers it as a new action, and which is why you have this very smooth animation, right? But then again, it's not really something that you do at work, because people don't want to wait for, I mean, there are some like data visualization tools where maybe you click on one button and you see the bar charts growing and growing and growing, everything. It's very nice to see, but when your executives are looking at a dashboard, they don't want to wait for the numbers to grow or like the donut chart to like slowly fill itself, right? So it has a very niche use case, but I would say that passion projects like this are still very fun to do because they test your technical knowledge of the software itself. And this shows that you can do anything in Tableau if you kind of work your way around it, right? This is just a very cool example of that. Okay, so my section, hopefully will not bore you guys, will be a live demo of something similar that I did last year, but I will probably go to that table over there. You don't have the box thing yet, yeah.
I forgot to request. Come take a seat.
Remember last year we had that little cushion box mic. Okay.
The tech force guy already went home. So
Okay, so this dashboard is a second part to the one that I did last year, but this one is more focused on UX, user experience, right? The other one is more like how do you hack the labels, how do you hack the tooltips to give more context to your dashboard. This one is more on like experience for your users. So I'll go through one by one. The first thing is, oops, because I need to share a different screen. Let me see. All right, so by default, right, Tableau doesn't allow you to create rounded rectangles. So what most people do in the community is that they create a rounded rectangle in like Figma or PowerPoint and they import an image to it. The problem with that is you need a prefix size. So if you want to let your rounded box expand vertically or horizontally, you can't do that unless you re-import another different size, right? So there is a way to do rounded rectangles in Tableau, and this is found by Irene, one of the Salesforce folks. She used to be an ambassador, but they took away her title when she became an employee. So what you do is that you can actually just create a dummy value, right? You can double click on here to just do a double quote, and this actually creates a dummy variable. And you can actually set this to, a minimum size. You can reduce the opacity because we don't really need this to show up, right? So now you have kind of like a dummy worksheet. What you want to do is that you right click and you can do a annotation, right? You can do either one. You can do area, point, or mark. It doesn't really matter. But once you have that, you can see that there's this box that appears, right? You can right click on this box and format, and you can add a, let me see, what's the, here, very rounded. Let me just raise this up a little bit so you can see, right? And then now you can actually drag this and just expand this to the max. And you have your rounded rectangles. So if I show you a demo of it in a dashboard, you can see that it expands according to what size you use. So you can do like this and it expands a rounded rectangle. You can do a smaller size and it still retains the rounded rectangle. So you don't have to import the image. So it's a very neat trick because I know like recently there's this trend of people using rounded boxes for like your KPI box and everything. It's a very nice way of doing it. You can go one level further by adding a shadow effect. And how you do that is you actually need to have two of these boxes, right? So you have one here, and then you can right click and add another one. And this one you probably need to play around a little bit more on the sizing and the position. But you can do the same thing here. You can do a white. You put it just right here. And you want to have this just slightly off the bottom and the right corner so that the kind of like a shadow effect stays at the back. So you can change this to like a darker black or something. And you have something like a shadow, right? There's no quick and easy way of like setting like, oh, you want a size of 400 pixels or whatnot. So you got to play around with the sizing a bit, right? But that's how you actually create a rounded box, and it will show up like this, which is pretty fun to play around with, right? So that's one. Okay, the second one is toggle buttons. Everyone loves toggle buttons. And how you would do that very quickly is that you will need a parameter first. So we have a parameter that I created earlier, which is, why can't I? This is very weird that I can't click on this one. Wait, let me see. Okay, let me just put it here. Okay, and then I just drag this over. Yeah, okay. So I have this here. So this toggle value, oh, now I can show. Okay, it's just a Boolean value, okay, a true and false, right? And the way you can actually force it to toggle is you need to have a variable to switch this Boolean value, right? And very quickly, right, you can actually double click on this and you can see that this shows up as quick calculation. Just put the value not in front of it. And what this does, it returns the inverse of this value. So I can show you, let's say we put this as a text here, right? And I make this slightly bigger. Maybe I need to put this as a, okay. Then a text. I put this in the middle so you can see. The problem with live demo is I can go as fast as my mouse and my hands coordinate. Okay, so now you can go to worksheet or dashboard if you're having this, and you can add an action to change the parameter. And then for this one, what we want to do is that we want to change the toggle value with the not toggle value. And this basically gives you the reverse of it. So if you click now, it goes to false. You click again, it goes to true. So this is a very quick way of using a toggle value, right? Okay, this one is particularly useful because if we take a look at this one, right? This is a cumulative value, all right? A running sum, if you will, right? From day 1 to day 365 or something. So sometimes because the trend line is so long, you only want to show the last 30 days. But the problem is if you filter last 30 days, the calculation restarts and it starts from 0 again. So I can show you, let's say we do order date here and I do a relative date of, let's say, last 30 days. So notice the value up there, right, is 2.3 million, right? Once I do this, okay, probably don't have last 30 days because it's only up to February. Maybe I do like last 6 months. Right. So now you see the value here is only 375,000. And this is because it's excluded anything that is before 4th of September 2024. All right. But that's not the value that we want to show. We want to show the cumulative up to this date, but only want to show the view of last 30 days. So how you can do that is using a Boolean function. And you can do something like this one, right? And this basically just takes a parameter. So this is a parameter, a Boolean parameter that allows them to switch between showing and hiding the last 30 days, all right? And then what you want to do is you want to return a value to check if the order date is greater than a fixed calculation, which is the maximum minus 30 days, right? So this fixed LD function would give you the last day of the data set, but it will not change no matter what. And then you just subtract 30 days from there, right? Else, if the parameter is false, then you want to return true instead, right? How this works is that this would also give you a true or false value, right? Depending on whether the order date falls before or after, right? And then with this, what you do is that you just drop it over here, and you see there's actually 2 lines that is created, right? There's one that is non-last 30 days, but Tableau doesn't restart the calculation. It just breaks it up into 2 columns, right? So you have this starting from last 30 days, but it starts from 2.2 million. And then from here, what you do is you can just hide this piece, just hide the label, and you have your last 30 days with the actual value, right? So that's why I'm doing it. This one is also very popular in a lot of the dashboards that I built, is giving the user the ability to switch periods. And what I mean by that is you could have a parameter like this to allow them to see the granularity between days, weeks, or months, right? And by default, you can't actually do that dynamically through one date filter, one date field. So you want to create a calculated field, which basically takes the parameter. And if it's day, then it just returns the order date. If it's week, it does a date truncation of week. If it's month, it does a date truncation of month. And then this one, you can actually just replace the order date. Let me see. And then you would have something like this. Period axis, right? You can show by days, you can show by weeks, or you can show by month, right? So there's a very quick way of giving them the ability to switch between. Okay. The next one is sets. All right. I think sets are something that is very underused in the community, but it's very powerful because a lot of Tableau's features, and in fact, most of the AI stuff are built upon the foundation of sets. So if you understand the concept of sets, then it helps you to grasp how you actually build pockets of data within your data set. And how it works is when you have a filter, let's say if we go with the regional manager, right? You have 4 values here. You have Chuck, Fred, Roseanne, and Sadie, right? Let's say I only want the user to be able to select Fred and Roseanne. I can filter by this, right? But once I show this as a filter, a quick filter, those values that I don't want the user to see are still there, right? And that's not the behavior that I want. So how you could do it is you can create a set from the regional manager by just right-clicking and create a set. Oops, technical error. Panggang already, 8 o'clock. All right. So you can create a set from here, which I've done over here. And you can do the same thing, just selecting both of them. But what set does is whatever function or whatever filters you set to it, it only returns those values. So if you drag this over to filters, it returns a true and false boolean, which you can also use as a filter. So if you show the filter now, you can see that there's only those 2 values that show up. All right. This is a very small dimension, regional manager. But let's say if you have something very long, like product names, you only want to show a couple of product names, then this will be very, very useful. All right. So that's one. Okay, this one also I can show you how we can actually combine 2 different sets, right? So for here now, right, you can see that there are all these profits. You can actually color them. Let's see if we color them. Let's see, where is the? Okay. Let me just switch the profit flag that I created, which is just basically checking if the profit is more than 0 or less than 0. You can use this to color either red or white. Right. So from standstill, you can really see where are the losses and the profit. So how I can actually manipulate this even more is that I can create, let's say, a subcategory of profit and loss, right? So this will give me the sets for, let's see, this one is show profit loss. Okay, so what I've done here is I have 2 other parameters, right? I have one category parameter and one profit category, profit parameter. So this one basically shows that I want to show only those with profit or only those with losses, right? And then this is just the overall category. So I've created a subcategory of the filter because all of this is subcategory marks. And this actually just has this formula in here. So if the parameter is showing profit, then I want to show all of the marks that have a profit more than 0. If I'm selecting loss, then I'll do the inverse. If not, I return true, which means that I return everything. All right. So if I drag this over here, you see that there's no change. Once I change this profits, it only shows the profits. If I put loss, it only shows the losses. Right. And now I can actually combine this with another filter. Let's say this one, which I created on the category. And what I mean by category is, where is the category? Over here. All right. So the category has 3 types: the furniture, office supplies, and technology. All right. And here, let's see, drop down. Okay, let's take away this one first. Okay, so by default, I would show all of the categories. But if I want to zoom into one category and only see the profits and loss in it, I can create one additional set. All right, and this, you can see from here, what this does, it counts the number of distinct values in category. So now my category is showing all, which means my distinct count is 3, because I have 3 of them selected. So I only want this set to take effect when the user chooses one category, right? And then now I can actually combine both of this into another set, and you can actually set the different joining options. So you can choose all of the members in both the sets. You can choose an intersect, meaning that the values must appear in both the first set, which is the profit and loss, and the second set, which is the selected category. And then now when I take this away, I probably need to keep this there. And then I put this over here. All right. And then what happens is, if I show profits only, right, this will show me all the profits. So it's furniture, technology, office supplies. And then I can do something like this where I only want to see furniture. So furniture has just 2 values. So this is how you can actually combine 2 different sets for more. And there's really no end to how many sets you can combine. So you can create a very, very dynamic chart for your users to play around with the different options. And it's really just up to you to build it. Okay. And then combine dimension. Okay, this one is also very interesting because it's more on the user experience point of view. And what I mean by that is, when you have category and subcategories, right, you want the user to not have too many clicks to get to the data that they want. So for example, if they want to see office supplies and appliances, right, they have to do 2 different filters. They need to filter your category to office supplies, and then they need to filter the subcategories to appliances. So there's a way to do it. It's not that straightforward. You need a couple of different calculated fields. So one of it is, I created a combined dimension, which basically just takes the category plus a pipe sign and the subcategory. And this basically gives me something like, let's see this, right? So you see furniture, bookcase, furniture, chairs, furniture, furnishing, furniture, table, and so on and so forth, right? So this is the combined dimension. And then I have a parameter that basically takes that value. I can't actually zoom from here, but you can see that you have the furniture, bookcase, furniture, chairs, furniture, furnishing, but I added an additional 4 values in here. One of it is overall, one of it is furniture total, office supplies total, and technology total, right? So those are the additional 4 that I added. And then from there, what I can do is that I can add a additional calculated field, right, that calculates, or rather shows based on the parameter. So what this is doing is, if the parameter is overall, then I just want to return true, meaning that I want to show everything, right? Else, if the combined category, which is the parameter, contains the word total, I only want to return category. I want to return all of the subcategories of that specific category. And I just do like a category equals to category. But the problem is, because the combined value has the word total, you need to do a replace. Just take away that total text. Else, if they're selecting a subcategory, then I want to return the concatenated category and subcategory, which is equals to the parameter. And to see this in action, right? So overall, it'll be like this. If I select on furniture total, I would see, sorry, I need to put this over here, which is true, right? I will see furniture and all of the values for furniture. If I select tables, it only shows me furniture and tables. If I show technology, it shows me everything from technology. So this is one way you can build user experience, right? So context. So tooltips are very powerful in dashboarding. And one way we often want to do for tooltips is color coding. But there's no quick and easy way of doing color coding in tooltips. Tableau doesn't have something off the shelf for that. And how you would do it is that you need to have multiple different calculated fields, right? So over here, I have one calculated field that basically just returns if the sum of profit is more than 0, then I return the word tax profit. If not, I return the word loss. And then I can drag this over to the tooltip, right? Let me just increase the size a little bit so you can see, right? And if I hover over, you can see that this is a profit. Let me find a loss. Okay, there's one loss here, right? But this is still not color coding it, right? So then what I need to do is that I need to create 2 more different calculated fields. One of it basically just checks that previous calculated field. If it's profit, then I return the profit flag. Else, it returns nothing, which is null. And then I do the inverse for the red, the loss. Yeah, I name it as gray and red so I know what color to color them. But what you can do from now is that you can take away this one. We don't need this anymore. But you can put the gray and the red into the tooltip. All right, and then now let's see, just reset this and put this as like the bigger one. Okay, so you have 2 values here. You have the red value and the gray value. So you just want to put them just next to one another. And you can actually color this red. For context, for demonstration purposes, I can color this green, I guess. Right, so you have 2 different colors, right? And now if you hover over, you have a green for profit and a red for loss, right? And there's a lot of other ways you can actually add even more context to it. Like you can add break lines. So this is a hacky way of adding new lines to your text. So this actually just breaks additional line. And yeah, this is how it is. Text wrapping. Text wrapping is not something that we often do because it's very finicky. But I found one method by the Phyllis twins, which is relatively easy to understand. So what they have is a parameter that you set the amount of characters for each line, right? Why we need to do this is text wrapping only works for dimension, right? So your dimension of your marks. But if you try to put it in a label, you can see that none of it is actually wrapping, right? No matter if, let's say you put like, the wrap function over here, it doesn't work. Yeah, then Tableau should actually take that out, but that's another problem for another day. And then what you want to do is you need to create a regex, a regular expression. This may look very confusing for a lot of folks, but it's actually not that difficult to understand. All right. So what this does is you can actually copy this formula. It doesn't really, it's not rocket science, but basically this piece, right, you're just replacing the product name with a regular function. S actually represents any character, right? So you're taking the first character and you can see this curly bracket over here, right? So this curly bracket takes the length, how many characters you want to return. So in this case, we've set it to 40. So it actually will sit in here and over here, it sets the first character to the 40th character. And it just adds 2 break lines to it, right? And this actually, what it does is it tracks from the first character to the 40th character. It copies that, adds a break line to it, and just break it down to the next level, next line. And then if you put this now over at the text here, let me see it over here. Right, you can see now everything breaks into 2 lines, right? So there's no quick and easy way of doing it, and this is a very niche work case, use case, but sometimes you do need a little bit of text wrapping, right? Okay, 2 more to go through. This one is particularly very useful. I found this hack earlier, last TC, right? One of the ambassadors was showing this on stage, and it was really powerful. So like Tableau has the aliases function, right? So for example, here I can right click, I can name this as profit in dollars, right? Right, I can rename this label. But the problem with this renaming is that it affects everywhere that this profit shows up. So if you create another sheet with this, it takes the same aliases label from here, and you can't have 2 different labels, right? There may be some very niche cases where maybe, I don't know, like you have last 7 days, last 14 days, last 30 days, but you want to have that last 7 days, last 30 days, and last 14 days in the label itself. You can't do that because it's the same value. So Tableau only registers it 1 time. But what you could do is, let's just take the, let's see. Okay, let's take average sales per, or profit ratio. That would be a good one. So profit ratio is already a calculated field. So let's just take this away, right? So for the first one, I'll name it as profit ratio, right? So how you want to hack this is that if you double click into the quick calculation, right, you go all the way to the top, you can do a double slash. Is this a forward slash or backslash? I can never wrap my head around it. Forward, because it's going this way. Okay, forward slash then. Okay, so you do a forward slash, and then you put the name that you want. So for example, this one, I want to put like profit ratio in percentage, right? And then from here, what you do is you do a shift enter, right? And you can see that it disappears, but it actually doesn't disappear. If you click on up on your arrow key, you can see that it actually breaks in 2 lines, right? And Tableau actually registers this as a new calculated field, but it's an inline calculated field. So it doesn't create anything in your list of fields, right? So now we have this profit ratio in percentage, right? And then now I can actually drag another profit ratio. Let's see, I can drag it over here, and I can create another one. So I can take away all of this first. Just take away this one, take away this one, take away this one, right? And then this one, maybe I want to put it as a decimal point, right? So I can put profit ratio in decimal point, right? I'll do a shift enter. All right, and then now you can see that I have 2 different things here, but it's the same value. I can drag one more, and then I can put this as a profit ratio, like full value. Okay, and then now the interesting part now is that you can set different formats to it as well. So for example, this one is in percentage. So I want to put this to percentage, right? And you can see the first one is now a percentage. Let me just increase the size so you can see. Right? And then this one, I can right click and format this. Right? Maybe I want to put just like 1 decimal point. Right? And then this one, yeah, this one I can leave it as it is. So now you can see there's actually 3 different formats. So this is just one way of doing it. You can also keep the same format throughout and have like last 7 days, last 14 days, and last 30 days. But this is how you would actually hack the labels for it. And you can do it not just for calculated fields, you can also do it for the dimensions as well. So now, let's say I don't want to name this as segment. I want to call it specifically customer segment. Right? I can do the same thing. And you can see that now customer segment appears. Yeah, and it doesn't affect the original segment. So if I drag the segment over, oops, segment, you can see that you have customer segment and then slash segment, which is the original one, right? So this is one way of doing. This is actually very useful because the previous 10 hacks that I did, we actually utilized text labels or rather text objects in the dashboard to manipulate this. But this is so much more intuitive than creating thousands and different text labels, right? And then the last one is a very niche use case, especially when you are having a scatter plot, right? I found this hack when I was doing my IMVs actually. And what this actually shows is, let's say you have a scatter plot, right? You can't actually have a border around it, except if you use any of the squares or circles. So if you use the default squares and circles, you can have a border, right? You can have like a black or different colors borders and stuff like that. And one way of making scatter plots readable is that you always want to kind of reduce the opacity a little bit, especially when you have very dense data, right? Everything is just piling on top of one another. The lower opacity actually helps read it. But when you want to introduce multiple different shapes, right? That's where you use the shape function. You can see that there's no border action anymore, right? You can't actually add a border to it. So how you can actually do this is you want to duplicate either one of the charts and force a dual axis. But for the second one, we want to use the trick that we used earlier on, right? So we can do something like this, where I call it a shape modifier, right? And then I do a shift enter. And then now I can actually set two different shapes for both of the dimensions because Tableau recognizes it as a different thing. So over here, now I can actually set this to a circle, right? And I can retain the color, right? If I were you, let me just duplicate this first. The previous example, right? If I have colors for each of the different shapes and I use a circle, right? You can see that I can't actually set colors to the circles themselves, for the borders, I mean, right? You can only set one color to it, right? Whereas for here, it retains the color coding. And then if you kind of do a dual axis and synchronize, you have a much readable scatter plot, right? Then you can play around with this and make this even darker in terms of the border, right? And it makes it a lot more approachable for scatter plots, right? So I think that is all I have for the 10 different hacks. I hope this is useful for you in your day-to-day because we build a lot of dashboards and there are a lot of different ways that we can hack, making your user experience better. Because I think dashboards should be built like a product because these days a lot of people use, like they consume dashboards on mobile phones, they consume dashboards on your server and cloud and everything. You want to make it fast, you want to make it intuitive for your users. And this is one of the ways they can actually do it. So hopefully you guys learn something from this. And that's all from my side. I think we only have one more slide, which is the additional resources that WenBin was talking about. So you can actually scan this QR code and it will give you a link of all of the things that we covered today, like the templates from Phyllis Twins. I think Phyllis Lavabo Viz is also inside there. So if you want to download and take a look. Cool. Any questions from anyone? Hierarchy and parameters. Let me see. Yeah. You mean this one? Oh, this one, is it? Let me see. Where is that? Yes, okay. My eyesight is poor. I'm sorry. Okay, so this one basically just takes the same value as the one that we created, the calculated field. And this is so you can actually have different values for what Tableau actually register the parameter value as, and you can have a different text that shows up for your user. So over here, I'm using a combination of Unicodes, which is like a blank space and then this arrow thing. So it appears that it's showing like a hierarchy, but it's actually just text manipulation, right? So if you show parameter, yeah. So this is like one of the things that I like to do, because this intuitively people will know it's a hierarchy. Like you don't have to tell, because if you put like furniture total, furniture bookcase, people might not understand very quickly. And I didn't want it to be too verbose. So which is why I opted for Unicodes. Right. Any questions? Any more questions? Sure, Suhendra.
Yes. Sure. So like I mentioned in the presentation earlier, right? Tableau Next is building on top of like Salesforce platform. So a lot of the capabilities that Tableau Next have in their product today is actually leveraging what Salesforce already built. So to answer your question, what type of LLM that we use is actually something that you can configure. Of course, out of the box, you can select the usual suspect like OpenAI, right? Bedrock and all of this, Google Vertex. And you can actually bring your own LLM as well. Let's say it is not listed down there, right? You can actually connect to your company approved LLM, and it will still follow the same trust layer that is built on top of Salesforce, using like a trust layer in Salesforce to kind of like secure that data before we actually send over the information to the LLM and bring back to the platform. Yeah, so it's fully configurable, right? And I think you want to add something? Yeah, I think. Oh, by the way, this is Taiwan is our security. Yeah, you can introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Terence. I'm part of the security and compliance team. So to add on to what Suhendra just highlighted, and he's spot on, we do have Anthropic. So Anthropic, OpenAI, Azure OpenAI. These are the three that we work with using our trust layer. So basically zero data retention. Whatever you're sending as a prompt to the LLM, no data is being used for training that LLM. So that's a use case for your works, for your offices, for your work as well. And then secondly, just like he highlighted, you can bring your own LLM, or you can even build your own model. So those are two options in addition. Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question. Sure.
So I think same question is, how do you ensure that what LLM produces ensure that, because I know there is, it's spoke to all these nonsense, right? But whatever, everyone is advice. So how does Salesforce actually ensure that your software that you use is viable?
You want to answer? I answer. I'm okay answering as well. Okay, two ways. One is we have an ability called grounding your data. So what it's doing is leveraging on Salesforce information that you've already entered into the CRM. So we have an ability for Agentforce to read Salesforce data, and that's how it grounds the information based on your own actual data, your own objects that you have in Salesforce. So that's one way that we ensure that the information that it's giving you is accurate. The second way is we have something called topics and actions. So you can go and create your own, and I'm going a little bit more technical and more into the detail, but we have categories called topics and actions. What it does, or what we do, is you can create, let me give you an example. Okay, got a good example. Let's say you're call center operator and you're getting a call from a customer saying, hey, what's the update on my order? You can go and use Agentforce. So as a call center operator, you can go and use Agentforce and say, hey, I want to find out information about this order. You can ask, you can ground the Agentforce to say, hey, certain parameters need to be provided. For example, username or order ID. And based on that, it then goes and picks up information just specific to that question. So it's not hallucinating and just picking up something from all over the internet. It is just going back to your data. So this is again through topics and actions that is part of Agentforce. Hopefully that gives you a better clarity. Yeah.
It's a question that follow up that, right? Now, one of the things when it comes about reporting is reproducibility.
Okay.
How do we ensure that when same question is asked by different people, it produces the same output?
Okay, good question. We have certain settings again within Agentforce. And those settings are again specific to the data, but let me again think of a good example.
I can give an example because I faced this.
Sure, sure.
So definition of country, even though everybody will say that our country is something different, but because of weird tax policies, a sudden special when the office is in a certain special economic zone, they may set up that office as a country. When finance team is looking about your P&L, that office they treat as a separate country for easy taxation purposes. When let's say an executive is looking at what is my total sales or total profit, they are referring to a geographical country. Right now, if these two people are asking the same question, how did it produce the same result?
Okay. I won't look at from a Tableau perspective. I'll look at it from a Salesforce perspective, and maybe Suhendra can elaborate more from a Tableau perspective. But in our case, we have through Data Cloud. So that's another application where we can create a unified profile. So if you have different teams using different nomenclature for the data, with Data Cloud, you can create a unified profile. So you can combine data from different sources, be it your data lake, whatever, and you can create a unified profile. Based on that, then it doesn't give you different information because you're creating one unified profile. That's specifically from Salesforce, Data Cloud, and Agentforce perspective. So that's, and I don't know, Suhendra, if you have.
So maybe I address one of the question that you asked, right? I think actually it's quite related, right? How can we ensure the Agentforce will produce same response every time you ask a question? My personal opinion or point of view, it won't be the same. It's called generative AI for a reason, right? The way how it's going to respond is slightly different from the way the previous response is being generated, but the context and the groundings remain the same, right? So there's a difference. Like you can't expect the generative AI to be able to generate the exact replica of the previous response, but it will follow certain structures, what Terence has mentioned, because within the configuration of the Agentforce itself, you kind of like put a guardrail, Like what type of format that you're expecting the agent force to be able to provide output, right? What are of things that you should be able to look at to answer some of these questions that you're asking, right? Now back to your question again, example that you gave. Let's say your executive, when they say countries, is referring to geographical location. The other function actually referring to specific grouping of the text countries, right? And this is where I believe the semantic layer will help, because semantic layer is sort of like a logical layer that sit on top of your data source, and you can actually define how you want to categorize your data or segmentize your data. So it will be in the form of, let's say, you create a new field, and this field is actually referring to the lingo that your finance function is using, right? So they will actually grouping this country on specific orders, while as the other countries that is geographical, it will be on a separate fields, right? And because within the semantic layer, you can actually provide a description. You can actually write like, okay, this field actually means this, this, and this. So when we ask a question, the agent will actually take this into consideration and provide the answer according to the intent that is being asked by the users, right? Yeah, so I think that's how we will tackle that particular example. Hope that answer your question. Right. And by the way, like if you look at any tools that leverage AI or LM in general, they always put a caveat, right? Please check your accuracy. So it's the same thing. Even agent force, we always put the caveat like trust but verify, right? You can actually use agent force to help you save times, increase your productivity, and all of those, right? But you need to kind of like verify those information according to your domain knowledge as well. All right. Any other question? Oh.
Yeah, animation does work on Tableau Public, but you need to test it out because sometimes it's very finicky. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Because there is a threshold for the number of calculations and number of marks in order for the animation to work. So if it crosses that threshold, then it doesn't work. But I don't know what the threshold is because nobody tells us. Yeah, and there's no documentation on it. Yeah, for a reason. Mm. Mhm.
The same thing that was working. That means the releases after 2020, second half.
Was there a change to the granularity or the number of marks?
Basically, the whole setup configuration was the same. But because of the new features, right?
On Tableau Public. One way I would verify also is to republish it, because sometimes it caches like the old version. Straight off error. Okay. Yeah, but I think the one need to see what the error is, and then we can troubleshoot. We can take it offline. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think one of the challenges that I have observed, especially with the combining this, a lot of this the community doesn't do a lot to improve the maturity of the even some of the visuals that we see from pure journalism storytelling point of view, it's really good. Executives have a attention span of 10 seconds. Right? And 5. Right? And then, to be honest, it takes around 8 seconds for the data. Doesn't matter how much we
Okay, so a couple of things to your question. First thing is, if you look at Tableau Public, there is a section, if you scroll all the way down, where is it? Called Business Dashboards. So over here, you would see quite a number of very cool examples of how you would build business dashboards. Some of it are layouts. Some of it are like how would you represent different things. Like say, for example, this one, right? Shows you the different ways that you can visualize KPIs, right? It could be a number, it could be a heat map, it could be kind of like an up arrow and stuff like that. There are a couple of authors, like one author is, let's say, Pradeep. Pradeep is one of the well-known dashboard builders in our community. So you can look for his work. His work is always quite beautifully done in terms of like dashboarding, So he focuses, there are a lot of authors on Tableau Public. Some of them focus a little bit more on business dashboard. Some, like for myself, I do a lot of dashboards at work, so I don't do dashboards on Tableau Public. But there are people who do like dashboards in Tableau Public as well. So you can take reference from there. The second question, the answer to your second question is on optimization, right? So optimization. Mm. Mm.
I think that's a common problem across the industry. And I think somehow most of the communities that are actually more focused on the developers, not the people who are actually part of products.
Yeah.
Like, are there any groups or any initiatives in the community where it's more to enable the people to understand the insights? Because at the end of the day, people who build insights, they don't build.
Yeah. So I think a few train of thoughts I have. The first one is more on data literacy. And I think this is something that boils down to how you want to drive, the data culture within your company itself. So there are some initiatives in the community or some resources that you can use. Even within Salesforce, you have the Tableau blueprint, right? That has like how you go through the different maturity of your business, how people start off with, they want everything in Excel, and then how do you build personas for your audience, and how you actually make sure that you answer the questions to your stakeholders to eventually them evolving and improving their literacy skills, so they ask less of the Excel things. Speaking from my own experience, I also have, I think everyone has that same experience of people asking for the dashboard in Excel. One way I like to do is meet them right in the middle, right? So I try to see what is the most granular data that they need and what is represented in the dashboard. And I try to increase the granularity a little bit because I don't want to confuse them by too much. You can show all the granularity within the dashboard itself, but it doesn't help them because it's just too much information to consume. So I will drive the conversation around understanding what are they trying to understand, what are the key metrics, what are the key drivers for them to drive the business on a day-to-day operation basis. It could be just one simple metric. Like say, for example, for me in the gaming industry, we do like a lot of games. So one of the metrics that we often kind of monitor on a daily basis is the number of users that come in to our game, number of users that installed our game, number of users that played our game. So these are the key metrics that measure the performance and the success of a game. So those are the metrics that are, I try to give them slightly different slices of the information. Some of the users may come from regional teams. They want to see the slice by regions, by territories. We have kind of like a one-pager of the breakdown by the different territories, but I still want to drive their attention to a key insight that they can bring off. So every day they look at the dashboard, I know, okay, things are going well, things are not going well. So, and then I try to increase that granularity by including things like, a small little table, like a spark line, stuff like that. So you try to meet them in the middle and see where the pain points are. The more you engage your users, your audience, the more you can answer their question, the less they will ask you for Excel files. right? And to me, dashboard building is not something that you build and you forget. I feel that dashboard building in a business context is more like a product. You should approach it like a product that requires continual improvement. I hope that answers your question. It's a very high in the clouds answer, I know. Yeah. Mm. Yep. So I think that boils down to the training programs or the curriculums you have within the organization itself. Because if you try to sell the dashboard to a marketing folk or sales folks or someone from finance, all three of them have very different literacy level and technical skills. So how do you kind of meet them in the middle? Like for me, dashboards we build for the audience. So if I know the dashboard is meant for someone that's less technical, I will add a lot more things. Then again, it goes back to your point about it being more on developers rather than the users. But in actual fact, if we want to be the one isolating change, we have to be the one that is putting out the change. Yeah, and that's the hard truth of the industry, I would say.
Excellent presentation. Because I think you gave insights on how to actually make full use of Salesforce data and make actionable progress of this insights. But for me, I divide this actionable insights into whatever data we have right now for the business to make our operations more efficient.
Yep.
But organizations are looking for new ways to obtain revenue.
Yep.
Like for example, in the insurance industry, we can only insure so much people. Maybe we can now insure your pets, for example.
Yep.
And you don't have that. So I just want to pick your brain a bit on how do you try to inject that into, so you have your Salesforce data and then you have a full graded actionable insight. Somehow you don't have the full data yet. Well, for example, we're using insurance for pets. Wherein traditionally you never had insurance for pets. I mean, just using this as an
Example. Yeah.
But just in your mind, how do you now use this scenario? How do you now address the scenario so that we can make all this business context? How do we use this tools to address that scenario?
Okay, so just for me to get your question right, so you're saying like you do not have the data, that external data, right, that is necessary for you to make a plan, let's say like come up with new innovative products, right, by combining like whatever data that you have in your organization, marry with the external data and come up with some strategy out of that. Yeah, I mean, just thinking out loud, we still do need that external data, right? And if you do have that data, you can always try to bring it as part of the same data environment. Now, I haven't tested myself, but I mean, if you're thinking out loud, like if you bring it into the same semantic layer, and you kind of like ask that question through the agent, right? Potentially can come up with something, but I mean, I don't quote me on this. We haven't tried, but I think the good way to test it, to be honest, is really, let's say like try to ask that question to ChatGPT, right? You bring two different data sets, just simulate the scenario, ask that question, because by the end of the day, what you see on the demo just now is still leveraging the same LLM model behind the scene, right? It's using OpenAI, using Anthropic, or even like if you use DeepSeek, for example, right? And just make a comparison, like throughout my own testing and my own like side project, I feel that a lot of this thing is really boiled down to the way how we ask question. Is something to do what the cool name is like prompt engineering, right? But essentially is like, you need to give a right amount of information structure into your question to the AI so that it can actually produce the result that you want, right? It's a trial and error, unfortunately. Yeah. So it might be doable, but again, I wouldn't say 100% is possible at this point of time. Yeah. Hopefully that helps. Yeah. All right. Yes. Before we kick out from this room. Say again. Mm, Yeah, I mean, just like my colleague mentioned, Salesforce as an organization, we do offer like a hands-on kind of like experience to build your own agent. But I wouldn't go to the scale, like let's say, like for example, DeepSeek, right? Like it's free. Like you go in, you type whatever question you have, then it will kind of like give you those input. I wouldn't say to that level, but it is enough to give you a sense in terms of like what you can achieve using the agentic capability that Salesforce has to offer. But yeah, it's like kind of a trial, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Well, one option is that you can go and sign up on Trailhead if you're not already part of that. With Trailhead, you can create developer orgs. So you can go and create sort of development orgs, and you can then use Prompt Builder, Agent Builder. So the whole Agentforce ecosystem can be tested out on the development orgs. The development orgs also contain sample data. So you don't have to fill it with data. It has certain sample data that can give you an option to test out Agentforce. Yep. No, I really didn't get your question. What exactly are you aiming for? Right. Well, I'll give you one statement. If you have garbage data, you're going to get garbage output. So Agentforce or any generative predictive AI is not going to resolve your data problem. Your data problem is critical first, that needs to be fixed in any organization. And you know, it's not a magic wand that you're waving over your data. Your data has to be accurate. Your data, I mean, we have had so many examples where just the example that he gave about country, right? Putting country as US, United States, USA. If somebody within an organization enters country in 3 different ways, what do you expect the agent to do? Right? So it goes back to the basis. Yes, yes. Give it a few more years, it's going to get there. Not at this current moment. No, you can, like I gave the example before, Data Cloud allows you to bring in data from all different sources, your own data lakes. No, it's different from Tableau server. That's why I gave that example that I'm speaking from a Salesforce platform perspective, core Salesforce core perspective, not from Tableau perspective.
The answer is yes, but I cannot put it on the slide. I cannot record it, right? This is in the roadmap, right? So the vision is like we're trying to build this converge between the next platform that deeply unified within Salesforce, right? Take whatever the best out of that platform and bring it to our core audience, right? So like a Tableau Cloud, Tableau Server, it'll be interchangeable, right? But it's totally separate platform, but it will benefit each other. Yeah. All right, Luis, you want to make the closure?
Yeah, when I was going to the toilet, right, I thought about your question again. So, yeah, that's where the best ideas come from, right? So one of the initiatives I push for any data culture to thrive in a company is having a buy-in from the top. Because whatever the top rolls out, people will follow. So if the top says that, you guys should be trained in using Tableau, getting your insights from Tableau rather than Excel, then naturally the ones at the lower level would scatter and follow. So that's also one of the problems I faced, that I managed to get like 1 or 2 buy-ins from the VP, and then we're like helping me to champion it. It's not easy lah, but change culture and data culture in general. Yeah. But any more questions from anyone? Oh, we don't have time. Oops, yeah, we go back. Oh, so thank you again, everyone, for coming. Hope you enjoyed today's session. The next one will be in May. But anytime you guys have any questions or whatnot, just feel free to reach out to us on WhatsApp or drop us a mail or something. All right. Thank you.